My name is Owen. I'm 27 years old, and I work as an electrician in a quiet suburb just outside Denver, Colorado. It's not the kind of job you dream about as a kid, but it's steady. It covers the bills, keeps the lights on in my second-floor apartment, and leaves me enough for a beer or two on the weekends. I have no regrets. Life is simple, predictable, and that's just how I like it. My place is nothing special. Creaky wooden floors, a second-hand couch I snagged from an online ad, and a coffee maker older than I am. I've been here a few years now, long enough to know the building's rhythm, the hum of the neighbor's AC unit, the clatter of mailboxes in the morning, and that faint scent of laundry detergent drifting up from the basement. Right next door lives Lila. She's 24, in her final year of med school, always buried in textbooks or rushing off to clinical rotations. We've been neighbors for almost 2 years, and we've got this easy, friendly vibe going. You know the type, a quick hello when we're grabbing the mail, chatting about the weather, or splitting a pizza order on nights when neither of us feels like cooking. Some lazy Sunday evenings, we'd watch a movie together, a classic rom-com that she picks, reciting the lines like she's memorized the whole script. Nothing serious, just comfortable. Like she's become part of the furniture in my daily routine. In the best possible way. I'd never thought beyond that. She was Lila, my neighbor, my friend. Until that Friday evening, when everything shifted, I was getting ready for a date, the first real one in months. Her name was Marissa, a graphic designer I'd met at a backyard barbecue with friends a few weeks earlier. She had a great smile, an infectious laugh, and I had a feeling things could click. Standing in front of my bedroom mirror, I held up 3 shirts, a crisp white one, a charcoal gray, and a navy button-down that might be a touch too dressy. None of them felt right. I tried them on one by one, pressing them against my chest, muttering to myself that I was overthinking it all. Dating is complicated enough without agonizing over your wardrobe. And then it hit me. She has a knack for style. She always knows what works. She'd helped me pick out a jacket for a work event once, and I'd gotten compliments all night. Without overthinking it, I grabbed the shirts, stepped into the hallway, and knocked on her door. The familiar murmur of her TV seeped through the wood. A medical drama she was probably half watching while studying. There was a rustle, a pause, and then the door swung open. Lila stood there, swallowed up in an oversized gray sweatshirt that buried her hands, her brown hair twisted into a messy bun. She held a steaming mug of tea, and her eyes carried that bone-deep tiredness from hours staring at flashcards. "Hey, Owen," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "What's up?" I grinned, holding up the shirts like a clumsy runway model in an impromptu fashion show. "I need your expert opinion. I've got a date tonight, and I'm bombing the outfit part." She blinked, her expression freezing for a split second. It was quick, almost unnoticeable, but something in her gaze shifted like I'd said, something heavier than I meant to. She stepped aside, gesturing me in. "All right, let's see what you've got." Her apartment mirrored mine, but warmer. Stacks of books on the coffee table, a throw blanket draped over the couch, and a faint lavender scent from a candle she'd just blown out. I spread the shirts across her couch, feeling a bit silly. So, white, gray, or navy? The one least likely to make me look like I'm trying too hard? Lila set her mug down and sank cross-legged onto the floor, inspecting the fabrics like a puzzle she needed to solve. She traced the white one with her fingertips, her brows furrowing just a touch. "The white," she said finally, her voice softer than usual. "It makes you look honest, clean." "Honest, huh?" I chuckled, picking it up. "That's good, right? For a first date." Her lips pressed together, and she glanced away at the gray one. "Depends on who you're trying to impress," she murmured. So quietly I had to lean in. There was an edge to her tone, not sharp, but weighted, like she was holding something back. I laughed to lighten the mood. "Well, Marissa seems nice. Figured I should at least look like I've got my life together." Lila didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. She just stared at the shirts, her fingers lingering on the edge of the white one. The air in the room thickened, heavy with something I hadn't noticed before. I opened my mouth to break the silence, but she beat me to it. "You're blind, Owen," she whispered, her voice cracking just enough to twist something in my chest. She looked up, her eyes shining, locked on mine. "I love you." The words hit me like a live wire, short-circuiting my brain. I froze. the white shirt still clutched in my hand. The room felt too small, the walls closing in. Lila's face flushed, and she shot to her feet, turning toward the door. "Forget I said that," she breathed, barely audible. She yanked the door open wide. "Go." I didn't move right away. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, her hand gripping the knob so tight her knuckles went white. "Lila, I started, but she cut me off. Sharper this time. Go." Her voice broke at the end, and just like that, she was gone. The door clicked shut behind her, softer than it should have been, but it echoed like a slam. I stood alone in the hallway, the shirt draped over my arm. The white one felt heavier now, carrying her words with it. I shuffled back to my place, my footsteps too loud in my ears. I didn't know what to think, what to feel. All I knew was that nothing felt simple anymore. I slipped inside, the shirt balled in my fist, wrinkled from my grip. My heart pounded not with excitement, but like I'd missed a step and was still falling. Lila's words looped in my head, "I love you." 3 sharp, heavy syllables, like they'd been waiting years to slice through the air between us. I dropped the shirts on the couch and stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. Lila, my neighbor, my friend, the one who laughed at my dumb puns over pizza and rolled her eyes when I butchered the endings of her favorite movies, she loved me. It didn't fit. Or maybe it did, and I'd been too dense to see it. I glanced at the clock. I was supposed to meet Marissa in less than an hour, at that trendy little bistro downtown, with its exposed brick walls and overpriced cocktails. I should have been eager. Marissa was great. 26, quick-witted, with a fast laugh and stories from her graphic design gigs that pulled me right into her world. We'd bonded at the barbecue over our shared love for spicy food and cheesy 80 Seconds tunes. But now, pulling on the white shirt because Lila said it made me look honest, my mind wandered elsewhere. I kept seeing her face, the spark in her eyes, the way her voice had cracked when she told me to forget it. I couldn't. I grabbed my keys, locked the door, and headed out. The drive to the bistro blurred into nothing. Denver's lights streaked by, as if trying to outrun my thoughts. I replayed every moment with Lila. The way she'd lean on my counter while we shared takeout, the time she'd straighten my tie before a work thing, and her fingers lingered a beat too long. Her laugh, always feeling like it was just for me. Had I missed the signs? Had she been dropping hints all along, and I'd been too blind to catch them? The bistro buzzed with chatter and clinking glasses. Marissa was already at a table by the window, her blonde hair catching the light, her smile bright as she waved me over. She looked stunning, poised in a black dress that showed she'd put thought into every detail. "Hey, Owen," she said, standing to kiss my cheek. "Nice shirt, very honest." I flinched for a second, Lila's voice echoing in my head. "Thanks," I replied, sliding into my seat. "You look amazing." We ordered rosé for her, a beer for me. The conversation flowed at first. She told me about a picky client flipping her logo designs nonstop, and I shared the story of rewiring a house for a guy who wanted to help and nearly electrocuted himself. She laughed. I smiled, but it felt like reading lines from a script. My gaze drifted to the window, to the bustling street, as if I might spot Lila in the crowd. Marissa was smart, funny, everything I'd thought I wanted in a date, but every time she spoke, I heard Lila's whisper. "I love you." "You okay?" Marissa asked, tilting her head. Her fork hovered over her salad, her eyes narrowing like she sensed I wasn't all there. "Yeah, sorry," I said, forcing a grin. "Long day at work, dealing with wires and all that." She nodded, but her smile tightened, like she knew I was dodging. The rest of dinner passed in a haze. We talked music, her dog, my weekend plans, but I felt like I was watching myself from across the room. When the check came, she reached for it, but I beat her to it. "Thanks for tonight, Owen," she said as we stepped out into the cool night air. "It was nice." "Yeah, it was good," I lied, nodding. "I'll call you." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I watched her head to her car, feeling like a jerk. Marissa deserved better than a guy who was only half present, his mind tangled up with someone else. I drove home with the radio off, the silence amplifying her words. Back at the building, it was late. The hallway was quiet, no hum from Lila's TV. Her door looked the same as always, number 204, with that little scratch on the frame from hauling in her couch last year, but it felt like a wall I didn't know how to climb. I paused for a minute, staring at it, my hand half raised to knock. But what would I say? Hey, about that love thing. It was too big, too raw. I let my hand drop and went inside. The next few days were torture. Lila was a ghost. No morning hellos at the mailboxes, no music seeping through the walls, no light under her door at night. I checked my phone constantly, hoping for a text, but nothing. I almost sent her something casual, like, "You good?" But every draft felt off. Monday morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I swung by the cafe downstairs, grabbed her usual, an oat milk latte, medium, and left it outside her door before heading to work. No note, just the cup, like a peace offering. That evening, when I got back, it was gone. No message, no sign of her, but that empty spot where the cup had been felt like a spark in the dark. She'd seen it. She'd taken it. That night, I sprawled on the couch, staring at the ceiling again. The white shirt lay crumpled on the floor. I thought about Marissa, her laugh, her stories, the way she'd looked at me like she was trying to read my mind. She was wonderful, but she wasn't Lila. Lila, who knew I hated olives and always picked them off my pizza slice. Lila, who sat cross-legged on my floor debating movie endings. Lila, who'd looked at me like I'd broken something just by mentioning my date. I didn't know yet what I felt for her, but I knew I couldn't pretend she was just my neighbor anymore. That spark, that empty cup, it was enough to make me question everything I'd overlooked for so long. The days dragged on, heavier, each one. Work was a blur of wires and breakers, my hands on autopilot while my mind stayed fixed on Lila. Every morning, I'd pass her door, hoping to catch her grabbing mail or heading out. But it was like she'd vanished. No music, no lights, just silence. I scrolled through our old texts on my phone, silly stuff like, "Pizza tonight?" or "You left your scarf here," hunting for clues I'd missed. Had she felt this way all along? Had I been too wrapped up in my routine to notice? That missing coffee cup was the only thing keeping me from thinking I'd imagined the whole thing that night. Saturday, I cracked. The quiet was eating me alive, and I needed to know where we stood. I hit the cafe again, grabbed 2 medium oat milk lattes, her favorite, and planted myself in front of her door. My heart hammered like I was prepping for a job interview, not just talking to my neighbor. I knocked softly at first, then harder when nothing happened. For a second, I thought she wasn't home, but the door creaked open a crack. Lila stood there, looking like she hadn't slept much. Her eyes were puffy, her hair pulled into a loose ponytail, and she wore the same gray sweatshirt from before, sleeves tugged over her hands. She blinked, surprised, like she hadn't expected company. "Owen," she said, her voice low but not cold. "Didn't think you'd stop by." I held up the coffees, trying to keep my voice steady. I had no script, but I had to try. I nodded at the cups. "Peace offering." She hesitated, then stepped aside, holding the door. "Come in." Her place felt different that evening, the air thicker. Books towered higher on the coffee table, papers scattered like she'd been cramming nonstop. The lavender candle wasn't lit, and the TV was off, making the room too still. We sank onto the couch, the lattes between us on the table, and for several long minutes, neither of us spoke. I could hear the fridge's soft hum, the distant rumble of a car outside. My fingers fidgeted with my sleeve cuff, and I stole glances at her, waiting for her to break the ice. She did. "I feel so stupid," she said, staring at the coffees. "I shouldn't have said anything. You were just asking for shirt advice, and I ruined it all." Her voice cracked, and she pressed her lips together, holding it in. "You didn't ruin anything," I said, leaning forward. "You were honest. I just didn't know what to do with it." She looked up, searching my eyes. "You didn't have to do anything, Owen. You don't owe me that. I couldn't pretend anymore." She took a shaky breath, wrapping her arms around herself. "I've loved you for months, maybe longer. It's the little things. How you always save me the last slice of pizza, how you listen when I vent about med school, how you make this place feel like home." I swallowed hard, her words sinking in. I tried picturing those moments, her laugh at my lame jokes, the way she'd linger after a movie. The day she'd fixed my tie and brushed my collar. Had I missed what was right in front of me? "Lila," I said, my voice lower than I expected. "I didn't know. I mean, you're always there, every day, and I don't know what I thought, but when you weren't these past few days, it felt wrong. Like a piece of my life was missing." Her eyes softened, but her hands still trembled as she picked up her coffee, clutching it like a lifeline. "You're not just saying that to make me feel better, are you?" she asked. "I know you don't feel the same. I saw you getting ready for your date. You were excited." "I thought I was," I admitted, running a hand through my hair. "Marissa's great, but that night, I couldn't stop thinking about you, about what you said, about your face when you said it." "I don't know what I feel yet, Lila. Not exactly. But the idea of losing you, of losing us, I can't handle that." She set her coffee down, her hands steadier now, still tucked into her sleeves. "And what does that mean exactly, Owen?" she whispered. "You can't handle losing me, but what am I to you? Your neighbor? Your friend? Or just someone you're pitying?" I winced. "You're more than that. You've always been more. I just didn't see it until you pulled away." I paused, hunting for the right words. "You're the one I want to tell about my day. The one who makes dumb stuff like our pizza nights matter. I don't know what it is yet, but I don't want to lose it. I want to figure it out with you." Lila went quiet for a long stretch. She studied my face, like she was weighing if I meant it. Then she nodded, slow and deliberate. "Okay," she said, "but we take it slow. I can't risk breaking over this. I don't want to break anything," I replied, and I meant it. "I just want to see where it goes." She gave a small, tentative smile, the first since that night. It wasn't much, but it felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. We didn't hug, didn't touch. We just sat there with our coffees, the silence less crushing. She told me about her week, how med school was kicking her butt, how she'd avoided me out of embarrassment. I talked about the date, how it felt empty and rote. We chatted until the lattes went cold, and for the first time in days, things felt almost normal. Almost, but not quite. There was something new between us now. Fragile and unspoken, but real. The quiet in Lila's apartment stretched after we stopped talking, but it wasn't heavy anymore. It was the kind of calm you sink into, like a warm blanket on a chilly night. The cold lattes sat forgotten on the coffee table, and the glow from her lamp cast soft shadows across the room. Lila had curled up on one end of the couch, knees tucked under her, still gripping the sleeves of her sweatshirt. I was at the other end, my hands awkward on my jeans, not sure what to do with them. The air between us had shifted, not a wall anymore, but a bridge. Shaky, but there. "Want to watch something?" Lila asked, breaking the hush. Her voice was gentle, almost shy, like she was testing the waters. I nodded, relieved for the anchor. "Yeah, your pick. Something you can quote the whole script to." She let out a small laugh, a crack in the tension. "You're never letting that go, are you?" "Never," I said, smiling. "It's your superpower." She rolled her eyes, but grabbed the remote, scrolling through her streaming app. She landed on that old rom-com we'd seen a dozen times, the one where she mouths the lines before the actors. The opening credits rolled, and we settled in, the familiar dialogue filling the space. It was like slipping back into our old rhythm, but with a new undercurrent I couldn't ignore. Every time she laughed or glanced my way, I felt it a hum in my chest. Halfway through, Lila scooted closer, her shoulder brushing mine. She didn't say anything, didn't look at me, just let her head rest lightly against my arm. I froze for a beat, not wanting to ruin it. My heart did its stupid drumming, but I didn't pull away. I let her stay, her warmth seeping through my sleeve. The movie played on, but I barely heard it. All I could think about was her, how close she was, how real, like she'd always been there, and I'd been too foolish to notice. When the end credits scrolled, neither of us moved. The screen dimmed, and the room settled back into quiet. Just the fridge's purr and the faint sound of a car parking outside. Lila lifted her head, looking at me with eyes that seemed to see right through. "Thanks for coming over," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think you would. I didn't know how to do anything else," I replied. And it was true. I couldn't pretend anymore that things were fine without you. She nodded, her lips curving into a small, relieved smile. It wasn't big or dramatic, but it untied something in my chest, like I'd been holding my breath for days. She set the remote down and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her fingers lingering like she was nervous. I meant it, about going slow. I'm scared of messing it all up. Me too, I admitted, leaning in so our eyes met. But I'm more scared of not trying. You're not just my neighbor, Lila. You're home. Her breath caught, and for a second, I thought she might cry, but she didn't. She just reached out, placing her hand lightly over mine, her fingers cool from the coffee she'd held. You don't have to say stuff like that, she said, but her voice was softer, less guarded. I'm not saying it to be nice, I shot back. I'm saying it because it's true. We stayed like that, her hand on mine, the silence wrapping around us like part of the moment. I didn't push it. I didn't fill it with more words. It was enough just being there, starting something we didn't have to name yet. When I finally stood to leave, the wall clock showed it was past midnight. I shrugged on my jacket, and she walked me to the door, her bare feet whispering on the wood floor. On the threshold, she paused, looking up at me. Thanks for not running, she said, her voice steady but warm, like she was choosing each word. I smiled, hand on the knob. I wouldn't even know where to go, not when you're right here. Her eyes lit up, and she gave me that same small, relieved smile. It wasn't a movie moment, no grand kiss or sweeping declaration. Just us, in her doorway, guessing at what came next. I stepped into the hallway, the door clicking softly shut behind me, and for the first time in days, I could breathe. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee from my ancient machine and the muffled sound of Lila's TV through the wall. I smiled without thinking. Checking my mailbox, I found a little note taped to my door, in her neat, slanted handwriting. If you need fashion advice, I'm still here. But next time, wear the shirt for me. I laughed, slipping the note into my pocket, and texted her about grabbing coffee later. It wasn't a promise, not a blueprint for forever. It was just a beginning. And for now, that was enough. That note from Lila stayed in my pocket all morning, her words looping like a catchy tune. I carried it to work, feeling the paper crinkle against my keys, a quiet reminder that something had shifted between us. The day was routine, rewiring a panel, untangling a mess of cables in an old house. But my mind wasn't there. It was with her. In that quiet moment at her place, the feel of her hand on mine. When I got home, the sun was setting, streaking Denver's sky in oranges and pinks. I texted her, "Keeping it simple. Coffee tonight, my treat." Her reply came quick. "Only if it's oat milk." 7 at our spot. The downstairs cafe was our haunt. A cozy nook with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu that hadn't changed in years. I arrived early, claiming our table by the window, the one overlooking the street lamps flickering on. Lila walked in right on time, her hair down for once, tumbling over a soft navy sweater that looked cozy enough to live in. She smiled when she saw me, not the hesitant one from before, but brighter, like she'd shed a weight. "You're early," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Didn't want to risk you stealing my latte again," I teased, pushing her cup her way. She laughed, and the sound wrapped around me like home. We talked about everything and nothing. Her med school exams, how her prof butchered her name, my latest job, fixing an antique chandelier for a client who nearly dropped it on my head. It flowed easy, like always, but a new current ran underneath. Every time our eyes met, there was a pause, a beat where the air thickened like we both knew we were brushing up against something bigger. She didn't bring up her confession again, and neither did I. No need. It was there, in the way she leaned in when I spoke, in how I noticed a freckle on her cheek I'd never clocked before. After coffee, we headed back to the building, the night air crisp and biting. The parking lot was still, just the distant hum of a car and the soft crunch of gravel under our shoes. We stopped at the foot of the stairs, neither ready to head up. "This feels different," Lila said, hands shoved in her sweater pockets. She looked at me, her eyes catching the lamplight. "Good different, but different anyway." "Yeah," I agreed, nodding. "Keep waiting for it to get weird, but it doesn't. It just feels right." She tilted her head, studying me. "You mean that?" "Yeah," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. "I don't know what it is yet, Lila. No plan, no script. But I know I want you in my life. Not just as a neighbor, not just a friend." Her breath hitched, and for a second, I thought she'd pull back. But she didn't. She stepped closer, close enough that I caught the lavender in her shampoo. "I spent months telling myself it was stupid, that you'd never see me that way," she said softly. "But you're here. You didn't run." "I'm not going anywhere," I replied. And I meant it. I reached out, brushing her hand, and she didn't flinch. Her fingers laced through mine, warm and sure, like she was anchoring herself to me. We stood there a long time, hands linked under the dim parking lot glow. It wasn't cinematic. No big gestures, no swelling soundtrack, just us two people who'd been circling each other for years without realizing it. "We keep it simple," she said at last, her thumb tracing a small circle on my hand. "No pressure, just us." "Deal," I smiled. "But I'll still need your help with shirts." She laughed, a real, full laugh that shattered the night's quiet. "Fine, but no whites. Those are for me now." We climbed the stairs together, our shoulders bumping on every step. At her door, she turned to me. "Thanks for tonight, Owen," she said, her voice soft but certain. "For everything. Thanks for not slamming the door in my face," I quipped. And she smiled, that smile that made my chest feel too tight for all it held. She slipped inside, and I headed to my place, the note still in my pocket. Her words echoed, "Wear the shirt for me." I didn't sleep much that night, but not from restlessness. For the first time in days, I felt settled, like I'd found what I'd been looking for without even knowing it. The next morning, I woke to the muffled TV from Lila's side of the wall, a medical show she'd probably dozed off to. I grinned, grabbing my phone to text, "Pizza tonight, your pick." Her reply pinged back seconds later. "Only if no olives." I laughed, already knowing I'd order her favorite anyway. It wasn't a fairy tale, no dramatic epic love story with a tidy bow. It was messy, uncertain, new, but it was ours. Standing in my kitchen, coffee scent filling the air, I realized that was enough. Lila wasn't just my neighbor anymore. She was the one I wanted to share my days with, the one who made the ordinary matter. We didn't need vows or roadmaps, just showing up, over and over. In the quiet corners of our everyday lives, love often hides like a well-kept secret, patiently waiting for our eyes to finally open. My story with Lila reminds me of that simple, aching truth. How many times do we brush past happiness, blinded by routine and the shiny illusion of something better out there? I was just an electrician with a straightforward heart, sharing a comfortable existence with my neighbor Lila, the med student, with her easy laughs and thoughtful gestures that dotted our pizza nights and movie marathons. She was right there, in the hum of our shared walls, in stolen glances down the hall, in those comfortable silences that weave the strongest bonds. But when I was prepping for a date with a stranger, it was her confession whispered like a heart's raw cry, "I love you," that cracked the facade. That vulnerable moment, laced with held-back tears and buried fears, hits deep because it mirrors our own hesitations. What if love isn't in the fireworks of fleeting encounters, but in the quiet warmth of someone who knows us inside out, who picks the olives off your slice without a second thought? This life lesson, so precious and so human, urges us to slow down, to tune into that inner whisper amid the world's noise. Don't let habit cloud your view of the treasures around you. Take time to really see the ones who light up your days without fanfare, whose absence leaves an unbearable void. True love isn't some distant conquest. It's often an intimate revelation, a fragile bridge to another's soul. Like I learned too late, but just in time holding Lila's cool hand under a street lamp's glow, the sting of overlooked chances can turn into endless gratitude. Let this story move you, stir you, nudge you to ask, who in your life is waiting, patiently, for you to finally see them? And you, friends, what unexpected revelation shifted the path of your heart? Share it in the comments below. Your words might light up someone else's day. If this tale touched you as deeply as it did me, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these soul-stirring stories. Together, let's nurture those magical moments that make our hearts beat a little stronger. See you soon for more shared emotions.